Let me give you a scenario. You're walking with your family, you go into a nice restaurant. It's busy. It's a nice day. Maybe you're celebrating something. Child graduating high school, getting an award. Maybe you got a promotion. But that doesn't matter because you're with your family. That's what's important. You walk in the restaurant. How do you know there isn't a threat waiting there? In this day and age, threats seem to be popping up all over the place. How do you know? Well, in truth, there is always the chance you won't find it. But there are ways to help you minimize that risk. And one of those is actually the reason I'm doing this. I want to talk to you about a class I took recently by a person I consider a friend, but more so, he is a phenomenal instructor, both with a firearm, but also in situational awareness. The class is called Heads Up Training. It's situational awareness. And it's done by a man named Gary Quesenberry. Some of you may know Gary from his show, when he was on the show Top Shot. Gary was a Army vet. He served in Desert Storm. And then he went into federal law enforcement. First with the Bureau of Prisons, and then he served with the Federal Air Marshals. And through those experiences, he put together this program. He based the class, I should say, on this book, Spotting Danger Before It Spots You. The class, as I said, is his Heads Up training. What is the class? Well, one, it's for anybody. It's not a class that's just for certain people. It's a one-day program, approximately 8 hours, depending on the size of the class, of the people, or the students. It does not focus on weapons. It does not even talk about using your firearm, using your knife, except maybe in passing in a plausible scenario. What it covers is your situational awareness. It covers up here. It draws on his experience as a federal air marshal, they are people who do nothing but watch for threats. That's their entire job. And through the years that Gary served with them before retiring, he built on that awareness, and he brought that awareness into his personal life. And this class also has some of his stories that he's used to teach or to learn from. Situations that he had to learn from himself. The class is broken up, just like the book, into what he calls 3 phases. It is understanding the threat, building your awareness, developing your personal defenses. And then it gets into deeper and deeper into each of those, covering things such as understanding your predatory behavior. It lets you understand how they think, how they pick their targets. They divide targets up into hard targets, soft targets, and then there's the targets that they don't even see. A lot of people refer to as the gray man. It talks about looking at the risk versus reward and what are the defenses they have to deal with. It deals with you learning how to function and think like that predator. You learn how they think, and then you basically flip it. You see how a predator would pick that target. In fact, the lunch break, we went to a restaurant and we were given the assignment. And while we were eating, we were watching people, and based on what we had learned in the first half of the class, we were looking at, would this person be a soft target or a hard target? And we would evaluate it. And then it makes you come back and you have to take a hard look at yourself. How do you carry yourself? How do you dress? A lot of people think situational awareness is the whole, one of the scenarios he gives you is the Jason Bourne analogy. I can walk into a room and I know that this person's carrying, I know where all the exits are without looking around. I know that the person out in the parking lot has got a gun in their truck. Okay. But how do you walk into a room and within 20 seconds, you can get a ballpark idea of where the threats might be? And it covers a lot of that information without it being as dramatic as the movies make it out to be. You do your initial scan and you're constantly scanning, but it's not the, you walk in, you just kind of look around. You make eye contact with people. If you see a threat, you make eye contact with them. They know that you are not an easy target. He talks about that. He talks about building your awareness levels. A lot of people know the Cooper's color codes, and the white, yellow, orange, red, and black. He talks about that. He talks about the OODA loop and how to use it to your advantage. Which, if you don't know the OODA loop, it's you see a possible threat, you orient to that threat. You decide on an action you want to do, be it fight, flight, move, yell at him, whatever. And then you make that action. That forces the other person to adjust to you instead of you adjust to them. Developing your personal defenses, the whole run, hide, fight, but it's more than that. The number one defense is avoidance. The way you win the fight is to not be in one to begin with. And then you have escape. Is there a threat? Can I get away? If the person's coming at me this way, can I go that way? De-escalation. Techniques for it. Not necessarily taught specifically in this class, but they are covered. And then, of course, confrontation. That's when you can't avoid it anymore. You have to deal with the threat. During this entire course, he uses exercises. And one of them that I absolutely hate is what's called the Kim's game. He shows you a series of items. They might be on a picture on a TV screen or a projector screen. They might be right there in front of you. And he gives you a short period of time to look at them, study them. Then he goes on, he's talking about something else, and then he comes up and he says, what was in this spot? And I have to admit, I did terrible at it. But since then, I've worked at it, and I've gotten better. You can always work at it and get better. He also uses examples from his life, and he will tell you stories, and you're like, oh. I won't take it from him, but it was a story that involved his children and a threat to them. The class is based on his book, but he adds so much more. I read this book, I think 3 times before I even took the class. I read it 3 times before the class was even offered. But when I took the class, it opened my eyes a whole lot more. Because one, he puts it into a perspective that it's not just words on a page. It's real. And when he, like I said, when he did the scenario with his children, that hit hard. Gary is one of those instructors that is extremely personable. He's very funny. But the material he conveys with so much knowledge and experience behind it, you can't help but learn. I'm not a person that normally enjoys lecture, but I was riveted to my seat, and I was glued to everything he said. I will take this class again. In fact, I drove 4.5 hours to take this class. I would drive double that to take it again. I can't recommend this class enough. If you ever get the opportunity, it is so worth it. It's not, for what you get out of it, it is definitely a bargain. I will not mention I'm not going to state the price, because I'm going to include a link in the comments under this video to the class, or how you can get information on taking the class. But it was so worth it. I would pay double to take this class, and I will take it again. To give you an idea of how, well, like I said, I drove 4.5 hours. That's how worth it this class is. After this, I'll leave a link for both the book, Spotting Danger Before It Spots You, a link to his second book in the series, which is Spotting Danger Before It Spots Your Kids. He is doing a third book. I do not remember the title. But they are both available on Amazon. The Spotting Danger Before It Spots Your Kids is coming out, I believe, it's open for pre-order. I believe it's May or June, but don't quote me on that. And I will also leave links for how you can get in touch with Gary and find out when you can take this class and where. As I said, this is hands down the best self-defense class I've ever taken. And I never picked up a gun. I never held a fake knife. I never laid hands on another person or had another person lay hands on me. This is strictly a course that teaches you how to think, not just about what's around you, but you have to take a hard look at yourself and decide, okay, what am I doing? One quick example of that is I always wore 5'11" pants. Why? Because they're comfortable. I mean, that's it. I like carrying a wallet in the cargo pocket instead of in my back pocket. And I wore Merrill hiking boots. Why? Because they're comfortable. But he looked straight at me and he said, there's 2 clues right there that you could be possibly armed. Okay. So I've ended up changing. I still wear those, but I'm more aware of my dress, how I carry myself, how I look around. Just the way you carry yourself and walk can make you a potential target. As I've heard called the 45-degree syndrome that too many people have nowadays, this. Looking at their phone and walking. You have zero awareness. But you also have a cell phone out, which then makes you a potential target, because that could be the new iPhone 8000 that is the hot ticket item and everybody wants. So I've had to really take a hard look at myself. And I've changed some things. I'm in the process of changing others to make myself better. And it's all because of this class. So like I said, heads up training based on the book, Spotting Danger Before It Spots You. Pick up the book, take the class. Vice versa. You can take the class without reading the book. You'll get a copy of the book with the class. But read the book, take the class, and help get your mental defenses built up to where you know when you walk into a place, you at least understand what could be a threat. Could it still surprise you? Sure. But you have an idea. You pick up on the cues and you go from there. But I'll leave those links. Till next time, stay safe.